The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs
the most civilized caveman I have ever seen.
Look who's come out of his cave.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is James from Cave Dweller Music. Today I have my co-host Brendan with me as usual, and we are joined by the guys from Cromlech. We have Kevin, Brandon, Jacob, and Roman with us today. Thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. Really appreciate you guys taking the time.
Right on. Thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Love your music. I was really honored to be able to do PR for the album. Think everyone should hear it. If you guys haven't heard it yet, definitely check it out. It is Ascent of Kings. It's out now on Hessian Firm Records. For anyone who doesn't know you or your music, do you want to just maybe tell us a little bit of what you guys do in the band and maybe just a bit about the band itself?
Yeah, sure, Roman. Why don't you take a little the beginning of the intro here, and we'll
that would make sense. So so basically, the way Cromlech started up was back in, I believe it was 2011. I was playing in my death black metal project Into Oblivion at the time, and so I met the other guitarist Baron at a show we did. I knew him through some other friends. He noticed I had a molested blood drum shirt, and we started talking about cool bands and stuff like that. And a little bit later, it was just it was one of those summers where I had a little bit more time than I thought I was going to. And what ended up happening was Baron sends me a message and asked me if I wanted to help him form a band that was like Solstice, Bathory, Manowar, and other bands with big balls. That's exactly how he phrased it. And so Brandon and I have some disagreements on our memories of this, but then again, we're all getting old, so who can remember? Basically, at the time, Into Oblivion was practicing in the shed in Brandon's backyard. And so I just kind of showed up with Baron one day to work on some riffs without telling Brandon, and he walked in on us. So basically he heard some of the stuff we were doing, and just kind of naturally seemed we tried out this other drummer that Baron knew. He didn't end up working out, and it just naturally kind of formed into we used the same three core members, I suppose you could say, from Into Oblivion and Cromlech. So, me, Brandon, and Jake, since the gear was there anyways. And so, basically, Baron was always very much, he started off, thinking this whole idea of, he wanted to do an epic doom metal band, basically. And I was cool with that. What I was a little bit more interested in at the time was, I guess, I was a very staunch black death metal elitist throughout high school, and I was kind of getting more into traditional heavy metal and things like that. And I really had the itch to do a project like that. I wouldn't have done it on my own because I don't really like doing side projects. I feel that if you do another musical project, it should be with another person who has a different view on songwriting than you do. Otherwise, you should just do it in your own band. And so, naturally that kind of tends to reflect the changes that have happened in both Into Oblivion and Cromlech over time. Just basically they reflect where I am musically at that particular time, plus, whoever else I'm writing with. But that's basically a little bit about the band at the start there. We started off with the four of us, and initially we were trying out people for vocals. There is somewhere out there is a demo of Baron singing.
I have it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Baron singing early Cromlech songs. It's
I have those.
I'm sure he wouldn't want it publicized. There's also an early demo around the same time period that has a early version of Lair of Doom where he recorded a solo blackout drunk. I think he literally fell outside the shed right after we did that. But anyways, yeah. So what ended up happening was that I wanted to do vocals in Cromlech, but really what it came down to is that it's difficult to play the kind of material we do and sing at the same time. Like some of these riffs are kind of hard. And practicing singing properly, particularly if you're singing complex vocal melodies, it's better to have a dedicated frontman. So a a little bit later on, that's where Kevin joined us, because we already knew him. We knew each other from discussions on metal philosophy and the like, and he'd been around Into Oblivion shows and such, and he was just interested. His initial commentary, which we made many jokes about later on and mocked him for a little bit, called him a bit of a boomer for this, but his initial reactions to the Cromlech material that I sent him was, he's like, "Oh, you guys sound like Metallica." and
Yes.
and so we rode that joke into the ground. But yeah, I guess that's a bit of a summary of how we started up there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So would you say sort of Cromlech or Into Oblivion is more the primary project? Are they both kind of equal, or is one take priority?
Be careful, Roman.
It's a very loaded question right here. I think
answer carefully.
It's careful. They're both different. Again, in Cromlech we have me and Baron writing, and then and obviously like Kevin doing lyrics. I mean, I barely do any of the lyrical writing at this point. It's mostly Kevin, so that's a huge contribution right there. I certainly couldn't equal with a lot of the ways he writes. But meanwhile, Into Oblivion, I'd really only say that the big difference is that in Into Oblivion, I basically do all the writing, and and in Cromlech, it's more of a joint effort between me and Baron. Aside from that, no, they're both equally important to me. I couldn't imagine not doing either one.
That's awesome. I love that, because they're so different. It's different sides of your creativity coming out, I guess. But,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say I absolutely loved the last EP you guys did, the Winds of Serpentine Ascension. That was killer.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's I'm glad you like it. I think that's some of our best work so far.
I think so too.
Thank you. Last Into Oblivion practice, we just finished roughly the second new song that we've been working on. So
really?
Yeah. So we got and obviously with our song lengths, I mean 2 songs right there. That's almost half the album. So, but yeah, we're plugging along there. We're still doing Into Oblivion, obviously. It's very important, and actually even now with Cromlech, we're working on some new material already. So,
Wow.
Awesome, can't wait to hear it. I don't know if you guys know this, but your song was actually the first track that we uploaded on our YouTube channel. Like, you were the first music we hosted when we were starting out.
Yeah. Yes, actually, I did go back and notice that. That is awesome. That is really cool.
It is cool.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the you guys repping us and everything. It means a lot. It's cool.
Of course.
That's quite something. And that's the first video there.
It's a double whammy, because like your music rocks, but then like Nick's also a good friend of ours from Hessian, so it will always support anything he's doing. But like even if it hadn't been from him, I would have been happy to host your stuff.
Oh, of course.
How did you guys come into contact with him, by the way? Like, how did you end up hooking up with Hessian Firm?
Wait, Brandon, don't you
Yeah.
know the answer to this? Okay, yeah, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was literally just one night, because like all of us have access to the Into Oblivion Facebook page, and one night we get this message, and it's like, and it says from Hessian Firm, and I messaged you guys, I'm like, guys, there's some label I've never heard of in my life. There's no mutual connection here at all. Like, basically offering us a deal. I'm like, guys, I don't know if this is legit or it's just somebody messing with us, someone trolling us that we know. But yeah, and then we kind of went from there. It ended up being legit and everything. But yeah, it was just out of the blue, contacted us, and as far as I know, it was like pretty much immediately wanted to sign us or release our stuff or something like that. But yeah, it was really, really out of the blue and completely out of nowhere.
He was 90% convinced it was a joke or a troll at first.
Yeah, like there was I just did not. It was just so out of the blue, and it's like, guys, there's something called Hessian Firm trying to sign us. Like this is definitely someone messing with us.
It's Nick's like, he runs that label in a really like unusual way. It's kind of just like anything that he finds that he loves, he's like, I'm just gonna put that out. He's like, I don't really care like how it does. I want people to have access to this album. I love that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do things. I mean, at the end of the day, music, art is, we're not really, heck, definitely if you're in metal, you're not doing this because you're making any money.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely a love of the craft, and so it's great that there's a label out there that appreciates that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing like butt rock type stuff, like Five Finger Death Punch or Avenged Sevenfold, then maybe you can make some money. But if you're making like this type of stuff, no.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But so what's kind of the inspiration for the music? I mean, obviously, we'll talk about Cromlech first, I guess. I mean, I obviously you've seen what I think it came down to. I kind of picked up on like Blind Guardian, Manila Road, Solstice, and Arab Altor, that type of stuff. Is that kind of accurate-ish, or am I way off?
Yeah, so I'll try to speak for Baron here because I remember very much, from many sessions when we first started hanging out, the kind of stuff he was listening to, and you have to remember the time period that this was coming out, and it's funny. The guys on the Terminus podcast definitely picked up on a lot of this stuff because they were able to remember the time period in which the band was founded and the kind of metal that was in vogue and popular at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big thing coming out of the late 2000s to early 2010s where traditional heavy metal was becoming a big thing again.
Yeah.
And I remember in particular, again, me being a high school death black metal elitist, I was going on, I was on either the Graveland MySpace or just Rob Darkin's MySpace. I don't remember whatever it was. But anyways, point being, he had there as a song, he had Manila Road's Riddle of Steel. And that's the first time I ever listened to it. I'm like, oh, it was kind of cool sounding.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you'd always hear these names come up and you start listening to them. And so Manila Road was definitely one. There was at the time and still is currently a band in Toronto called Possessed Steel that does like the trad heavy metal thing. I think they're one of the first guys in Toronto to really start doing that. I can't imagine that them doing it didn't rub off on us in some way. So that was probably part of it. Now, as far as direct influence, I don't know if I'd be able to say, but Manila Road for sure. When I met Baron, that was the first time I really started getting into Solstice. So New Dark Age, I'd never heard it before I met Baron, and I was incredibly impressed by it. I was so that was a huge thing.
Baron used to literally spam us with Solstice links and say, or for me at least, he'd say, "Play drums like this."
Baron. He has his way about things. We've all become more like each other over time, so that's something any of us could do at this point. But back then, it was definitely a Baron thing. Let's see, so Solstice, I always loved Blind Guardian. Nightfall and Middle Earth was such an important album for me growing up. The subject matter, the Silmarillion, just the extreme power metal, everything else like that. Obviously, I really like Follow the Blind. Battalions of Fear was probably the first one by them I bought. So yeah, that stuff is definitely there. Though I'm surprised how much people pick up on it personally, because I don't think that it was one of the most conscious influences. I would say like Solstice, Manila Road, Eisentor, those were definitely up there. Bathory for sure.
I think it came through more on the song that you chose to use as a single, and I think a lot of people heard that single the most, and that's kind of where the whole thing came from, because it was Born with Sword in Hand, right? That was the first song that you put off the album. Yeah, that one has, I think, out of all of them, that one has the most Blind Guardian sound to it.
Oh, definitely. It's very power metal. I can definitely get that for sure. But yeah, when I'm going back into the the genesis of the band and where everything came from, actually a really big thing that I kind of wanted to work in, because I guess I didn't just want to do like a straight epic doom band, or I never had plans of writing just a straight epic doom band or a straight like trad heavy metal album or whatever. As I was getting back to earlier, as the Terminus guys pointed out, prog heavy metal being one of the biggest root influences of everything is kind of true, but like particularly like prog heavy metal in the context of stuff in the 80s that has its roots in the 70s, and one of the things they really pointed out was Cirith Ungol, and I really liked Cirith Ungol's King of the Dead. I think that was definitely a huge one right there. Another one, it's like you're not going to pick up on it very obviously, because the aesthetic superficial elements aren't necessarily there. But I definitely, when I think of writing any kind of traditional heavy metal, I think, well, to me, the greatest traditional heavy metal album of all time was Merciful Fate's "Don't Break the Oath," which is like, which is actually, again, much more proggy than people will give it credit for. The songwriting is really good on there. It's catchy, obviously. So that was an influence for sure. Bathory, Sirathungol, like I said, yeah, Eisentor, Solstice, Manila Road, Celtic Frost was Manowar, yes, but Manowar most in spirit more than anything.
Yeah, I figured that much. Like in spirit and theme and like concept, that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. No, 100%. Celtic Frost was a big one too. Angel Witch. Yeah, obviously Sabbath, definitely Sabbath. We did a Sabbath cover that did a bit of a number on Kevin's vocals.
Yeah, it certainly did. Well, it took me for like 6 weeks, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was that's when we did Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, right? It was a National Acrobat. I can't remember now.
Yeah, and I blew my vocals out in one of our practice sessions, and I think I was out for a good 6 weeks.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we attempted Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, but
and we did it though.
Kevin's voice. We did play National Acrobat live though. That was the one cover we perfected.
Oh
nice.
Yeah. So that was a big thing there too.
Plan B.
Yeah, exactly. There was the Plan B. Yeah, I think actually another big thing too is to kind of like wrap my point up here. A lot of Greek black metal kind of snuck in occasionally. Like I really in particular, like Verathron's the one song at the end of His Majesty at the Swamp, Tress Rising of Nyarlathotep. For me, that's like this like epic kind of like 70s heavy metal prog masterpiece right there. So like that was always a very big influence for me. And when I go back, I was like, yeah, I want to do heavy metal, but I wanted to do it with I wanted to do it with a bit of the prog in there, and also in the places where it could have crossover with more extreme stuff, I wanted to emphasize those elements.
Right.
So I guess that would be that would really be the most succinct way I could summarize the influences for the band. There's all kinds of other stuff that comes up if I think about it. You get to a certain point and you've listened to so much metal for so long that like the riffs become a part of like your internal genetic makeup, and you can't remember what you got influenced by because it's just like, I just write riffs like this because this is who I am.
Yeah, it just bleeds together.
Yeah.
Just to your point on the Greek black metal scene, I always did appreciate that they were so much more influenced by the sort of traditional heavy metal stuff. Like they put such an emphasis on the melody, the harmonies, and like the riffs. And I always thought that it really stands out in a different sort of light than all the Northern European stuff in that way.
Yeah, 100%, because they like other bands like Master's Hammer, Root were. In those cases, like I think they maybe had a little bit more going from the thrash stuff, but a lot of it was that these bands were influenced by, they were influenced by Merciful Fate a lot. Going back to that, or the funniest thing to always look at is the obvious resemblance between the guitar tone on Thy Mighty Contract by Rod Christ, and then you go back to Savage's in the Hall of the Mountain King. It's like you compare what's the song Price You Pay. If you listen to the beginning of Price You Pay by Savatage and in the Hall of the Mountain King, it's basically a Greek black metal riff. It almost has the exact same guitar tone as Thy Mighty Contract. It's they definitely loved their heavy metal, and you can see that come out more explicitly in later projects like Zemiel and Agatus and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like it's funny that you said the early Rotting Christ stuff, because that's literally the example I was going to use. It's like there's so many melodic, like stunning, catchy riffs in those first few albums.
Oh yeah, 100%, and that definitely rubbed off on me. The some of the very Sabbath sounding riffs, some of the more like Judas Priest, Maiden sounding riffs, the Merciful Fate riffs. Getting introduced to that through the black metal lens definitely was a very big influence on my writing in Cromlech.
What are your thoughts on the latest stuff that they've done, like the new direction they've gone in with the folk influences? Like, are you a fan or not?
So let's clarify here. We're talking about Rotting Christ right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, it's not really. I'm very conservative in my metal taste, in the sense of it takes me a long time to acclimatize myself to newer music. I have to really you find your filter becomes pretty refined, and the things that you're into are not necessarily like, the early 90s stuff was amazing. The black metal, death metal, a lot of the stuff in the early to mid 90s was great, and then it kind of over time, some stuff happened in the early 2000s where we were kind of at a nadir musically. I really think for me the best material by them would have been the last album I would have really enjoyed by them personally was Non Serviam. And like as far as Greek black metal goes, that and Verathron's Verathron's Lament to the Gods EP from I think that was from '98. That one's still pretty good too. That unfortunately that scene in my view isn't quite what it used to be. I think that it happens with bands. We can all point to a bunch of bands that have spectacular first, second, third albums. But rare is the band that can maintain their quality throughout their entire career.
Right. Yeah. And those bands really stand out as like special. Like, I mean, this is a personal opinion, obviously, but I personally think that Immolation and Autopsy, as far as death metal go, are two of those bands that have been consistent from the start of their career till now. Like, I can't put my finger on like a bad album from either of them.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I will say this. I think Immolation certainly may have fluctuated in quality.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kept still putting out some good stuff. I mean, even albums that people don't necessarily hold high as being traditionally great, like Harnessing Ruin, still have they still have their moments.
Yeah, exactly. It's not bad. It's just like not as good as their better stuff. But you look at like so many other bands, you're like, man, these albums suck. Like I've never said that about either of those bands, about anything they've done.
Yes, exactly. I have the same feeling about in black metal. Graveland and Summoning are pretty much exactly the same in that way, because like, again, they'll fluctuate in quality. They might release some like stuff that's like all right, but like it never gets bad. And that's, I have to say, that's actually an achievement, because some bands just get really bad after a while.
Yeah, it's like, especially in the 90s, like the late 90s period, there's so many bands that try to do that, like, I don't know, play with their sound and try other things, especially in thrash. Like all of the big thrash bands in the 90s got super weird. You know the period I'm talking about, when it was like Megadeth did like a country album, and then like Slayer did new metal, and then Metallica went hard rock. That was like a really bad period.
Listen,
everybody was confused.
don't start talking about load and reload around Kevin.
Those are the golden years.
Kevin has a special relationship with Metallica.
Kevin, I mean, I would say that, like, this is just my opinion, that Load and Reload, if they had been done by a different band, I think would have been really solid rock and hard rock albums. I just think, like, coming from Metallica, it was just like people like, what is this type thing?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know. It's weird. Like Load and Reload were some of the earliest Metallica that I heard. So I do have a strange relationship to it. Like I can look back at it now and be like, this is objectively not very good for Metallica to be putting out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. If it was under a different moniker, probably would have got a different reception from people. Although it's really popular. It seems like in terms of sales, people buy it.
Yeah, for sure. It's very accessible.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they nailed the radio single sound for that.
Definitely. Yeah, it's accessible, but not terrible, like Saint Anger. So, Brendan, did you have any questions you want to ask? I know you had a bunch of stuff that you had lined up.
Yeah. I was going through all the albums and stuff, and who came up with your artwork? Who did you guys like come up with that as like a collaboration, or buying somebody's artwork and using it, or how did you get all that?
So are we speaking generally or about the last album in particular?
Well, generally too, for
Cool.
Cromlech,
Yeah, sure. So basically, yeah, in the case of the two releases in between the albums, though Iron Garden, Myth and Stigma, those were just picking cool artwork, cool historical artwork. That's never a bad thing to do. Actually goes back to an influence of ours, which is probably fairly obvious, but they were really good at choosing good artwork for album covers. Atlantean Codex. they would always pick like really good romantic era or like symbolist artwork, and
Yeah.
you use that as an album cover. I mean, that goes back to other bands did that too, Bathory, and especially during the Viking stuff. But regardless, yes, we did that for those two. Both the first album and the album that we just released, Ascent of Kings, so both Ave Mortis and Ascent of Kings. Both of those were done by Chris Verwimp, and Chris Verwimp. I mean, he's done tons of stuff, but for me in particular, the thing that I associate with him the most are the Absu album covers. And he was just fantastic works on Son of Tifereth, and then Terra, of course. So in the case of the first album, yeah, that's right. Baron came up with the concept for it. There's even a stick figure mock-up drawing that we have on the band page somewhere of how the original design was supposed to look, and then we just had Chris go with it. The idea was kind of a joint idea in that case, because we were going for a very Conan the Barbarian theme. I mean, that's like the Atlantean king that that Conan finds there with the sword and all that. So that's a pretty obvious one right there. So with this new one, on Ascent of Kings, it's an idea I had for a very long time, where I was kind of looking at different things in mythology, like Odin hanging himself on the world tree with the spear, piercing himself like that. The most obvious thing you can look at it is if you know anything about Celtic mythology, about Irish mythology, that basically is a depiction of the story of the death of Cú Chulainn, from the Ulster cycle, and so I kind of like there are these interesting myths of warrior kings and priest kings, and basically self-sacrifice and all of this. Particularly the entire idea of the sacred king who needs to be sacrificed, that really went into the idea we had behind the album artwork. I had that concept for a very long time. It was again based off my readings of mythology, but then again, some other stuff that I wouldn't have picked up otherwise. Like, for example, Lantian Codex did that album, The Golden Bough, which is based off the book, The Golden Bough, which is a comparative mythology book. And so it's in there that I kind of read a lot of this stuff about, these entire idea of like, these ceremonial sacred kings that usually have to die in certain circumstances for the entire cycle of life to continue. And, there's all these religious and ritual significances to them. And I thought this was a really cool idea. Kevin's Irish. I've always found Celtic things fascinating. So it just kind of naturally, it kind of all naturally melded together that way. So So because we used Chris Verwimp for the first album cover, it just seemed natural to ask him again.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool concept. Definitely get some like dystopian Conan things going on too. It's cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. Some people definitely make a connection with Conan being on the Tree of Woe and everything. So I get that.
Yeah, it's cool. You guys like watching those movies back in the day?
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite movies. Conan the Barbarian. I think that's definitely up there, just due to the more than anything, like obviously the subject matter is great, the topics are great, but unlike a lot of modern movies, back then they had a better sense of. The thing had it had these slow meditative shots of large landscapes, and like the pace of the movie was good, and it was very different from the remake that they made later on. I forget what year that came out in, but we all went to go see it, and I wasn't quite as happy with that one.
So 2011.
Yeah, 20. Oh yeah, wow. Okay, crazy.
When we formed the band.
Wow, yeah, that's insane to think that literally happened the same year. Yeah, I'm getting old.
Cromlech was formed out of spite of that movie.
I'm the outlier with Conan stuff. Like I did not watch that movie until I was probably 30, and I never read any Conan stuff. So these guys reference Conan and everything, and sometimes the references I have no clue what they're talking about. So I'm definitely the outlier when it comes to the Conan. I like the movie a lot, the original one. I like the second one too, but not the one that came out later. But yeah, these guys are definitely more into the Conan stuff than I am.
Yeah,
the score in the original movie was phenomenal too. Like I can just listen to that, the album of that score, like while I'm at work or driving. It's soothing. It's even this music on its own speaks for itself from that movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And actually, well, I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever picked up on it, but if you listen to on the first Cromlech album, Ave Mortis, and you go and listen to See Them Driven Before You, the first theme of the song is all based off of the whole Conan, Riddle of Steel, Riders of Doom theme. And there are a couple more Easter eggs like that on this album if people care to look for them. There are riffs that are references to that kind of stuff.
Nice. Do you kind of add those kind of Easter eggs in on purpose, or does it just happen naturally?
Oh, in that case, it definitely happens on purpose, because like I'll listen to a motif from a soundtrack or a piece of classical music or something like that, and I think to myself that's definitely a genre of riffs that we write. We're just like that is a really cool melody. I want to turn that into a heavy metal riff. I've definitely done that many times in Into Oblivion and also in Cromlech.
Oh yeah,
that's true for the lyrics too. There's lots of Easter eggs in the lyrics if you can find them, and that's conscious too. Like I'll find a line written by someone and think, "Wow, that sounds awesome," and I'll plug it in there. And it usually turns out really well. I might tweak it so it's something more, original, but there's definitely a lot of lyrical Easter eggs as well.
That's cool. Definitely cool.
We won't tell you where they are because we don't want to get sued.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's
interview over.
That's a whole joke that me and the guys have, that I've invented a whole genre called lawsuit metal.
We can only play 29 seconds of this.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. It's
is that actually what the limit is? You're allowed to take 29 seconds of something? Like, what is the limit?
Kevin, don't encourage me here, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Well, if anyone figures it out, you can let us know.
You know how the limit of copyright is 7 years after the author's lifespan, and like probably like 50 years time, 40 years time, people are going to literally be able to use like all 70s and 80s metal as just common like non-copyrighted music.
Yeah, that's right. It becomes public domain or whatever.
It does. Yeah, I think it's like the author's lifespan plus 7 years, and then after that, it's public domain.
7 years or 70?
70.
Oh, 70. Okay, I thought 7 years. I thought, wow, okay, that's not a long time.
Yeah, it's not our lifetime, but our great grandkids are going to be able to like public domain use like Iron Maiden songs and stuff.
Pretty sweet. But it's like how like video games, I can't remember the name of it right now, but they use a lot of old songs from back in the day, like all apocalyptic themed stuff. That said, I made it. I can't remember the name of it though. But yeah, they use all kinds of old songs, and it's just like, oh wait, why does it sound so familiar? And it's like, oh yeah, these are really like actually legit old songs. Like I thought they were just made for the video game at first, but then that's it. It's cool.
I know you had some Toronto questions you had lined up as well.
Yeah. I was gonna ask about, is sushi pizza really good?
No.
To be honest, maybe I have my head in the sand, or maybe I've completely forgotten about it. But I swear that's the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah,
but then again, I'm a caveman that lives.
You've never heard
of
sushi pizza?
Maybe, I don't know. This sounds very novel to me right now. Maybe I'm just forgetting things.
I've definitely had it, and it's not that good.
Yeah, not a fan either.
And I like sushi.
I have no clue what that is.
I mean, it's more of an inner city Toronto thing, like in the core of the downtown. Kevin I don't think grew up in Toronto, right? But the Greater Toronto area. But yeah, we're all from the suburbs of Toronto, so a lot of cultures downtown are still foreign to us.
Nice. Well, then, have you had a pre-meal bacon sandwich?
Pre-meal, yeah, I have had that.
Oh, yeah.
Those
Oh,
are
yeah,
delicious.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It's a good sandwich.
I actually prefer like just regular bacon to pre-meal bacon, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always find there's like, I don't know, cartilage and stuff in the pre-meal. Maybe it's the quality of the pre-meal bacon I've had, but I don't know. I mean, it's good, but not as good as just kind of regular bacon, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
So is this kind of what, like, is this what Toronto's known for? Pre-meal bacon and sushi?
Possibly.
All right.
And then the ever famous, poutine.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's a classic.
Yeah, there's so many variations of it I've seen. We used to do one. I worked in a restaurant. We did one with it was like tater tots.
You're getting Kevin excited.
Like sausage gravy, and then the curds, and it was good, but
yeah, you got to add like pulled pork and stuff to the poutine.
Yeah, we did that bacon lardons.
Nice.
Well, I had one once where it was basically a braised beef stew on top of French fries. That was a nice variation of it.
Ooh, that sounds pretty good.
Little mini onions.
Do you use ketchup? Do you dip in ketchup?
Ooh, no,
or mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. I've had it with mayonnaise.
Yeah, I haven't dipped much in mayonnaise. I've used mayonnaise to like make sauces with and stuff like that, but I haven't used it as a dip.
Right. Yeah. Some people like it. I like my fries on my poutine with mayonnaise.
It's not as big in the US as it is in like the UK, Canada, and Australia. I'll say that, but the mayonnaise thing with fries.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we fry our mayonnaise around here. Oh, that's funny. And then beers, like you guys, there's got a ton of breweries around you. Is there anything worth trying to find out this way?
Yeah. Canadian. There's a lot of craft breweries around. But I don't know, when I'm drinking, it's usually Belgian ales. I'm usually getting from that are imported.
Okay.
A lot of our local breweries. I don't know, it's
I like Wellington.
Well, yeah, Wellington's good. Amsterdam's good. Amsterdam has a good nut brown ale. I always like drinking that. Wellington's got the SPA. That's a staple at Cromlech. And actually, one of the old staples of Cromlech was Upper Canada Dark Ale.
Upper
Canada Dark Ale. We used to get that all the time because you get a 12-pack of it, and it was it was pretty good for what you were paying for it. If I recall, it was like and I don't know how the prices are relative to the United States or Australia or whatever, but over here at the time, I seem to recall 12 bottles for about $17-18. It was like, it was good enough. It was good enough, and it tasted good. We would drink it all the time. We would
it's good enough.
Yeah. Oh no, it was more than good enough.
It was good enough beer.
it was definitely more than good enough. It was just also, I think, the price factor, and that was we used to drink that all the time. I haven't had that in a while. I remember that we would make a joke about it. I don't know if you guys grew up with the commercials of Sunny D, whatever that orange drink was that had
the fake orange. Yeah.
Kids love the taste of Sunny D, so we started calling it Uppy D. Upper Canada Dark. We started calling it Uppy D. We started joking about, Uppy D. It's got the taste that metalheads love.
That's hilarious.
There are probably good breweries I'm forgetting about over here, but to be honest, some of the best stuff. Oh yeah, there's a couple of smaller ones, like one near one near where Kevin lives, Royal City's not that bad. No, but anyways, there's other ones I can think of. Jake actually makes very good beer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm flattered.
Oh, nice. Literally award winning, but that's let him get into that if he wants to. He also is very good at making mead.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
yeah.
I homebrew and do some of that fun stuff.
Oh, nice. We can take the interview over into this topic now.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I work at a brewery as well, and the brewer actually, we made a cherry and currant mead that's still kind of ticking away.
Is that kind of like the beer style mead where it's lower alcohol content, or more like the wine and the dry style?
No, it was like 1 million pounds of honey and a lot of I can't remember what kind of yeast we used, but the next day it was like the airlock inside of it, like we had it in like a big barrel, like like a 50-gallon barrel, and excuse me, it was like shooting out of the airlock, it was like biological warfare in there. It was cool. It was violent inside of that barrel. But yeah, we had it in an oak barrel for a little while, and now it's just kind of hanging out. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, explosive fermentation's the sign of success.
Oh yeah,
great thing to wake up to in the morning.
Yeah, I got to work the next day, and I was like gonna go check on it, and I was like, oh my god, like this wow, this is aggressive. It was just like shooting out, like it was cool. It's cool as hell. What's your favorite beer to make at home?
I love making the Belgian style ales. Yeah, like Roman said, I made an award-winning beer because I tried my luck at a local homebrewing competition. Toronto has a pretty big homebrew community. I'm not really that tight-knit with it, but I kind of just lurk in the discussions, and anonymously I've sent this beer out. It was a Belgian dark strong ale.
Mm-hmm.
I got to about 8%. I got it nice and dark. I had some molasses in for some flavor and full-bodiedness. Used a nice Trappist style Belgian yeast to get that nice flavor that's characteristic of them, with that like bubblegum aroma and like the dried plum and raisin aromas and flavor.
Yeah.
So that recipe, I could finally, after years of tinkering with it, I could cross that off the list as being perfected now.
Yeah.
But I love brewing a lot of traditional various European style ales, especially German ales. A lot of breweries around here in Ontario don't really do too much of that.
Yeah.
Most of the breweries here in Ontario just do that kind of West Coast IPA style beer, which is very common. And after a while, I get sick of it. I know it's a way where, I mean, you'd probably understand this since you work at a brewery. I hear often in breweries, you could make something into an IPA if you screw up the batch.
Add more hops.
So yeah, ultimately, like, I got into brewing to just try my hand at brewing these types of ales that aren't brewed here locally. And like Roman said, we like to the beer drinkers of the band, we love to drink those imported beers we get from Europe.
Yeah. There's a nice smoothness to a lot of those. I know. I'm actually, my next batch I'm planning on making. I want to make a Kolsch, but I want to. I don't know if I want to add it into the mash or into the boil, but I want to add lemongrass to it.
Nice.
Oh, that would go really well with the Kudish, actually.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, because it almost kind of has that kind of similar kind of flavor to it. So I was like, I think that would accent it really well. So I want to try it out. Or I was thinking, do I like make a tea out of the lemongrass and then add that into the boil? I don't know. Figure it out. I'm going to figure it out.
Probably the boil would be better. Probably need a ton of it, because I know when I would try making beers with different spices like coriander, it's present.
Oh yeah, you need more than you think.
And it dissipates after you're done the batch and you bottle it. Goes away after a while. Or even with the hop flavors, I found just in some of my beers, it would taste hoppy at first, and then after a few weeks of aging, you lose the hoppiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all depends. Are you bottling it or kegging it?
I used to keg it because I was lazy, and it was path of least resistance. Once I got the equipment for a kegerator, less work. But then I got married. I have a daughter now, and we need to turn my little office into the nursery. And so I had to get rid of the kegerator, and I'm back to bottling beer. And I kind of love bottling beer again. It makes it easier to carry. It tastes fresher. It seals the beer and preserves it better.
Yeah.
So it's worth the extra work.
Yeah. I had just inherited a kegerator, so I was like, gotta start doing that, because I bottle all the time. So yeah. And bottling day is fun, like.
Yeah, I got back into it, and yeah, it's great having a kegerator because it's always awesome serving your beer to guests and hosting some parties and
of course,
people trying your beer and having your own bar at home.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. Yeah, I can't wait to bust that thing out this summer, springtime.
I've got one more food question for you guys, and then we'll get on to music again. Well, it's beverage related, actually. Do Canadians drink Canadian Club, or do you just export it to America?
Oh, yeah, we drink Canadian Club. Is it that good? I mean, like, it's okay, I guess. But, yeah, we do drink it over here. So,
okay.
It's certainly not my preferred whiskey or anything, but people do drink it here.
I was wondering, because like Foster's, the Australian beer.
Okay, yeah.
It's like number one Australian beer in the US. It's every single friggin' grocery store has it, and you can't even buy it in Australia. I'd never had it in my entire life before I came to the US. And then it's like some people in Australia like, oh, do you drink Foster's? I'm like, dude, I never even saw Foster's until I came to the US. But it's so like, it's so
funny.
It's so bad. It's so bad we just export it. We don't want it. Like, it's
I've got a bit of a funny story about Foster's.
Okay.
Me, Baron, and a few friends of ours, I think it was back in 2014. They had Warriors of Metal in Ohio. It was it was a cool festival. Honestly, it was for me, it was a really great chance to like see Manila Road, Hellstar. Hellstar was a huge influence for us, by the way. That's a big thing I want to bring up. Hellstar is gigantic.
Cool.
Nosferatu, love that album. Manila Road, Hellstar, and then Twisted Tower Dire was playing too. I mean, obviously it's new Twisted Tower Dire, but it was a great band. Regardless, so they were playing out on this ranch somewhere. It was cool because we got to camp there overnight and everything, and it was just like a nice fest. So, anyways, the whole drive down, me and the guys are all convincing ourselves. We're saying like, okay, what we're gonna do is that once we get there, we're gonna pretend to everybody that we're Australian. We're just going to speak it with an Australian accent the whole time, and we're only going to drink Foster's. And we started coming up with these like ridiculous stories about, how the Prime Minister of Australia is a crocodile, and like, he had to fight the crocodile to become Prime Minister, and then like, all this all this other stuff. I mean, like, I don't even remember half of it. It was so ridiculous, but like, we got there and immediately we're just like, we're from Canada. That was a pretty fun show, actually. We all got mini kegs Newcastle Brown and started just walking around drinking them. There was, as soon as we got there, like an hour after we got there was a tornado, and and all of a sudden the winds start whipping up. And sometimes how the wind blows, but like eventually it stops blowing. Well, that did not happen. It just kept going like faster and faster and faster. And the bands were all playing in this band shell that had like a tin roof. And all of a sudden, like a square yard of tin just like rips right off the roof. And I'm like, well, these are my last thoughts. It was a miracle. The show ended up happening actually, and we had a great time. Just me, Baron, and maybe some of the other guys. We were driving around on his car on the property after it had rained, after the tornado, drinking Nuki Brown out of mini kegs while blasting Fires of Mars by Manila Road. It was a good time, and they ended up playing that night. It was good. Anyways, you bringing up Foster's just made me go down a whole trip down memory lane.
Awesome story. I love that we love those tangents on this podcast. So always feel free. Like some things like, I've got a story about that. Go nuts. Just a really funny piece of Australian trivia about our prime ministers. I don't know why I find this funny. It's actually sad the guy died. But one of our prime ministers, while in office, went for a swim. I think it was in like the 70s, and disappeared and never came back. And I think it was like 1967. Yeah. So it's like Just imagine that being a U.S. president or something, though. Like he just goes for a swim,
swimming and never,
and just never came back. And then the country's like, they waited 2 days, and they basically say, "I guess he's gone," and then just put someone else in charge.
Okay, that is kind of funny. Actually,
it's pretty fun. I find it really fun.
It's swallowed by a whale.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? It's funny because that obviously, as soon as you bring up Australia, I start thinking about the Simpsons episode about Australia.
I love that episode.
Yeah, of course, it's good. It's great. That's awesome.
Oi, Andy.
You saying the prime minister dying swimming just makes me think of the freaking when the prime it's like when they
Mr. Prime Minister.
Mr. Prime Minister.
Andy.
that made me think of that all of a sudden, like he died like in an accident like that or something like.
Booting gone wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, that episode is like I lived in like a country town in Australia, and I've been like pretty far west, and it's not far off some of the stuff from that. It's just to put it in perspective, I went to a camel race in a small town in the outback in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
Yeah, they have camel races like in town, which is it's just pretty wild.
So, I will ask actually because I want to ask an actual Australian about this. I always get stories about the spiders there. Are they all over the place, or what's up?
Yeah, no, it depends where you live, type thing. Like if you're in the inner city, you're not going to get too many of them. If you're like kind of near like a forest area, in a forest area, yeah, there'll be some pretty big bad spiders. But like a lot of the time, the bigger they are, the less you have to worry about them. So like those really big ones, they're like the size of a dinner plate. Like when you count the tips of the legs and stuff, those aren't going to bother you at all. But like it's the little guys that are really venomous that you got to watch out for.
Sure.
Yeah, and then like the most venomous one is it wasn't really where so like the most venomous spider is the final web. That's in Sydney, and I lived in Queensland, which is up north. So I was in the state where the Barrier Reef was. So it's like everyone calls it like the Sunshine State, the wild state. It's like got this massive rainforest with tons of crazy stuff in it that will kill you, but it doesn't have as many spiders. Way more snakes, less spiders.
Oh, okay.
So,
interesting.
So you kind of have to like decide what you're more scared of. Like New South Wales, because Sydney is more spider territory, and then more snakes up north. But there's scarier things than both of those, in my opinion. Like in those rainforest areas up north, like there's this plant that has these like tiny microscopic glass needles that if it gets under your skin, it doesn't come out naturally. Or it takes like months, and it's like it feels like apparently it's the same like feeling as fiberglass. So like they kind of have to remove the top layer of your skin to get it out.
Oof.
So I find that way scarier than a spider or a snake personally.
Yeah, sometimes man. You hear the stories about Australia and you wonder how anybody survived down there.
Yeah, it's not so much. There are parts of it that are like don't get me wrong. Like there are places where you can easily die in nature if you're not like basically relatively like with it. But the majority of the country where people live is mostly cities, so you don't really get as much of that as people think you do.
Right.
And the main people that die are British tourists or Chinese tourists, like just because there's nothing in UK that can really hurt you. So they come to like a place like Australia and they're like, this is like, watch out for the wildlife. And they're like, yeah, right. And then they just die. It's mostly crocodiles. Like the main deaths that you hear about is crocodiles up north, like British tourists that it's like signs saying, don't go by the water. They'll go down to the water and take a picture and get grabbed.
Oof.
So it's like stuff like that. Like there's a story that we were told when we were up there. It's like lady was told not to go to the beach because like if you go really far north in Australia, you can't swim at some beaches because there's crocodiles on the beaches because they come out of the waterways, and they're like, don't go to the beach at night, like don't go near the water. And her and her friend literally went like down into the water and swam at the beach at night, and both didn't come back. It's like you're kind of asking for it, like you know what I mean? Like not like it's not asking for it, but like if they tell you that that's going to happen and then you like do it anyway, it's like
right.
Yeah.
It's natural.
I went to the beach and they disappeared. And it's like, well, we said not to do that.
Well, then people blame the crocodile and they're like, well, they're like killing machines. I'm like, no, you just kind of went into their territory at night. Like it's going to happen. Yeah. It's like going out into like the forest in Canada or the US and like approaching a bear. And then
Right.
like, oh, the bear mauled me. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like, it's gonna happen.
Who would win in a fight? Australian animals or all of the Florida men?
Ooh.
Ooh,
Oh man. Okay.
tough question. Oh, what is the Canadian equivalent of Florida? Like, do you have like a territory that's like considered like wild and redneck, like all the crazy shit happens? Because Australia's is Northern Territory.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I felt like when I went to British Columbia, there's one part in British Columbia closer to the Rocky Mountains, so it's not on the coast. It's called Kelowna, and I just found it funny when I was visiting there because in the summer it's really hot and really dry. I guess Florida gets very humid, but I found the parallel to Florida because in Kelowna it was just full of old people and boomers. Similar to how like in Florida, it's just where all the boomers go to retire. Like that parallel was there.
Yeah, I guess the only, when we think of the national character of areas of Canada, I guess Alberta's got a bit of a reputation for being a little bit Wild West. But like again, probably nothing as crazy as anything in the States or anywhere else. And
Right.
then I think that's probably about it. It's like there's really no, like, Canada's a pretty
I always
in
feel
many
like
respects, it's a really boring place.
Canada has like a real friendly reputation. I feel like.
Yes, and polite and friendly, apologetic.
I had a buddy that he grew up in Montreal, and he was always talking about like when he was like talking about like being in the army and stuff like that, and he was just like, yeah, man, Canada, they'd go help out wherever, but they'd be really far back with the binoculars.
Yeah, I find like in the major cities, like everyone's an asshole, everyone's cold, no one wants to acknowledge your existence. But if you go out in the country, I mean, and where we are in Ontario, you could drive an hour in any direction and be in rural territory, and it's night and day. Everyone there's much more friendly outside of the cities, and I guess you have to be because you're further away from infrastructure.
It's the same in the US. Like even in California, like if you get away from like I live in San Diego, if you get away from like San Diego and LA, like as soon as you get like maybe an hour or two inland, everyone's super nice and friendly and like welcoming. But like, in LA, no one gives a fuck. Like you could be like dying on the street, people don't give a shit. But like you like walk into a store and they're like, where are you from? Like, what are you doing here? Are you having a good time on your trip type thing? You get like even like 2 hours inland.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Like throughout my childhood, we would drive down to Florida to go on vacation, and so I think I've spent more time outside of the major cities in the U.S. and more time through drive-through states and little towns. And yeah, everyone there is really friendly. I've heard to believe the reputation.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of blew me away because it's like they're even friendlier than like people in Australia and New Zealand sometimes. Like people are really welcoming and friendly, and like people are kind of like, especially if you have an accent, they'll be like, where are you from? Like, what are you doing here? Do you like our town type thing? You know what I mean? Like they genuinely care.
Yeah, they're like, were those people in the city nice to you or not?
Not really. But like I feel like if you go to New York, having someone be extremely rude to you is part of the experience. Like I was like, fuck yeah, when like someone was like super rude to me in New York.
Yeah, exactly. Like New York's got that rep, Toronto's very much trying to be New York, but isn't, because we just don't have the history. It's like Toronto basically just kind of, we got most of our population here in the 80s. It was for a very long time in Canada the second city, the one that was the second largest one, right next to Montreal. Right. Population move around then, and that's where a lot of the city got built up from. So like, yeah, I'm sure there is history here, but it's like not kind of the same kind of cultural history that a place like New York might have, where there's like a very authentic character there that like you said, you expect somebody to be rude to you as being part of the experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the first times I went to New York, I live in Connecticut, and my cousin was moving there, I think, and so we were driving him to drop him off, and in the intersections they have there, they have everything like clearly blocked off, like do not have your car in the fucking way. And I was like in a green light forever, and then it turned red and I'm in the fucking way. And so I move off the best I can, this and that. and this lady yells out of the car of her taxi. She's in a taxi in the back seat, and she's like, "You should have never left Connecticut." And I was like, yes, that's awesome. Oh, it's so funny, dude. I was just like, whatever. Like, there's nothing I could do. You know what I mean? It was fucking hilarious.
That's funny.
Just to bring it back to music before we kind of run out of time here. What are some bands in your area, like local bands, that people should check out? It doesn't have to be like your city, but just like in your region, that part of Canada. Like, who should we be listening to if we're not listening to them yet?
Okay, in Toronto, good question.
Only listen to Cromlech.
that would be the most Cromlech answer, obviously. Now that being said, I mean, yeah, if you've heard Cromlech but haven't heard Into Oblivion, check out Into Oblivion. Obviously, our Baron does live session guitar at Nuclear Hammer, which those are old friends of ours, known those guys for a long time. That's obviously more war metal, death black metal kind of thing. Awesome. Anybody that knows about us, obviously going to go on Metal Archives, see the Similar Artists, and see Possessed Steel. They've got their own reputation right there.
Corrosion. Corrosion?
Oh yeah, corrosive. Yeah.
Corrosive.
Yeah. So Kabe, the other guitarist in Into Oblivion, he plays drums in a pretty cool thrash project called Corrosive. They're cool all over the place. I'd say like thrash metal with a bit of a death metal tinge on things. Ooh. They're a good local act. We're really good friends with those guys. Their singer Rad has promoted some great shows and put us on there.
Wait, is that Corrosive with a K?
Yeah, with a K. Yeah.
They did that album Toxic Apocalypse last year, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
yeah, I heard that. That was good. It's good stuff.
Oh, right on. Yeah, right on. I'm trying to think of other local stuff. It's
I think that about sums it up.
Yeah,
good night, everybody.
I'm sure there's something I'm missing, but regardless,
I'm sure.
I would mainly point acts like us out and acts associated with us as being my main experience of it. I mean, the thing is, I guess one of the big things lately is that first with everything that happened back in 2020, the COVID and all of that, and then afterwards the fact that everybody's got families, jobs, lives, that kind of thing. We haven't really been gigging as much lately, so we're not like as much in the know. Though we'll have some shows coming up for sure. Now that the album's out. So our experience with the Toronto, GTA, Southern Ontario, whatever metal scene isn't really quite what it used to be. It's not that it's just a question of proximity for us. So not necessarily in the know about it. I mean, when it comes to modern metal, again, as I pointed out before, I've kind of got a pretty refined filter when it comes to it. I've got there's a funny story. I think I mentioned it somewhere else. Maybe when Hessian Firm interviewed me and Andre. But Kevin, when we did the trip to Malta, because we played Malta Doom Festival in 2015, I think, and we played the festival there. On the plane over, Kevin was showing me some stuff, and he showed me this one band, Infamous, who we did a split with eventually. And nowadays, Infamous, they haven't been releasing much, but Infamous is one of my favorite metal bands, period, nowadays. I really like their work, but at the time he showed it to me, I guess I just wasn't really willing to give it a chance. And he put the earbuds in my ears on the plane, and then all of a sudden, I'm just like 5 seconds, I'm like, nah. I'm like, nope. And then all of a sudden, and now they're my favorite band. So like, so yeah, sometimes it takes me a while to get into newer stuff. I'm definitely hypercritical of a lot of things. I'm really looking forward to the new Samoth album that's coming out, because I've liked everything that they've done. Just getting less into local stuff here, just more into general current metal and everything like that. Our label mates, Galicia, their album Precipice, fantastic. Absolutely love it. I can't think of a single band that sounds that much like the second Sacramental Abolishment album like they do. And in addition to that, only band I can think of that actually ripped off a riff from not ripped off, but paid tribute to a riff from Uncanny's Splenium for Nyctophobia, which is a pretty obscure album, but the resemblance was uncanny. So
when you said Infamous, is that the Italian black metal one?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, from Sardinia. Yeah, his work is fantastic.
Yeah, I've only heard the one album by him, the one from like 2019 with like the mossy forest on the album cover.
You are missing out. I highly recommend. 2009. Yeah, you're talking about Solitude and Silence. That's the one you're thinking of. I think you might.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
That one is excellent.
Okay.
I really like 2013 Abysso. That EP is fantastic. And then the Return of Misery Split with Gratsuk. That one has excellent works on it.
Okay.
But honestly, you couldn't go wrong picking any of his stuff.
All right, I'll do a deep dive because I only heard the one thing, so I need to kind of check out more of it. Brendan, was that all of your questions? Because we're at about time now.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Cool. I'll do my last two then. So this is kind of like an ambush question. Gonna put you guys on the spot a little bit, but if you were trapped on a desert island and you had a solar-powered Discman and 3 CDs to listen to until you got rescued, if you got rescued, what would those 3 albums be?
Okay, well, interesting. Anybody want to go first here?
Load, Reload.
Saint Anger.
Yeah, Saint Anger. Yeah, give me a minute to think about that. That's tough. Oh.
Okay, I think I can answer this one pretty quick. Gardens of Grief by At the Gates, Chvislisa Taras by Burzum, obviously, and then this is a tricky one right here. You know what? I'll say Nespith by Demilich. There you go.
Nice, great album.
Yeah, for me, just a quick rapid fire answer would definitely be Slayer's Hell Awaits.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely Nespith as well. I thought that too as well, Roman. My man.
The hive mind, man.
Yeah. And you know what? To change it up a bit, I'd probably do like Atlantean Codex White Goddess, just to throw something else in there, but probably those 3 just rapid fire. Nice answer there.
Awesome.
I think for sure I would add Summoning's Dol Guldur into that for myself, although I can't think of any 2 other records. The 3rd Burzum record, however you pronounce that, would be there as well.
The same one I said.
Record. Yeah, exactly. And I can't really think of a 3rd right now.
Yeah, for me, like the first thing that came to my mind was Altars of Madness by Morbid Angel. That was a really influential album for me.
Nice.
Probably have to go with Mental Funeral by Autopsy and Terra by Absu.
Nice. Great picks. Cool. That's awesome. It's kind of, I like doing that one because it kind of puts people on the spot, and I like to see where people like pop out straight away, because it kind of depends sometimes, like talking to people what kind of mood they're in when you ask them that question as well. And some people are like, it does not falter. It's the same.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, mood can definitely factor into that. I can see that for sure.
Mm-hmm. It does for me. Like when people ask me that question, it changes. But last question for you guys is, if people want to buy your album or follow you on Facebook or listen to your album, what are the best places to sort of follow you and listen to you?
Well, you can find our stuff. You can find our stuff on YouTube pretty easily if you look us up. We got a Facebook page, Cromlech Facebook page. We have a Bandcamp, Cromlech Doom Bandcamp. And aside from that, we just recently got on Spotify too.
Nice.
So between all of that, there's plenty of places to see our work and get a hold of it. Hopefully, we'll have, obviously we got the CDs for sale. Hopefully we're going to have some other merch out soon. We're working on some shirts currently. We had some pretty good designs for the first album. I think we got a pretty good design for this one. So yeah, just check out our Facebook, check out our YouTube, check out our Bandcamp, just look up Cromlech and you'll find us easy.
Yeah, and download
Awesome.
us off of SoulSeek. We're not going to sue you like Metallica.
Yeah, I think Hessian Firm has the album on their Big Cartel as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Great chatting to you guys, and really appreciate you guys taking the time.
No,
Yeah,
thank you. It
thanks
was a great interview. It was very
Yeah,
interesting.
cheers, man.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of fun.
No worries. And for everyone else listening, thanks for tuning in, and we'll have another guest next week.